Hi everyone, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this brown leather holster, but this recipe and method will work for any leather you do on any game range. So you're going to need AK black, any black will do. You're going to need Rhinox hide, any dark brown paint will do. Mournfang brown from Citadel, any rich brown will do. And you're going to need Ushabti bone, and any sort of ivory will do. And yeah, we'll be painting this. So let's go. So yeah, started off with a black base coat. So if this is on your model, just paint the area black, give it a nice starting point. And then we're just going to do multiple thin layers of Rhinox hide until you get a nice smooth, clear, opaque base coat. And I'm going to use like a little editing thing, so if you see like a big burn on the screen, that means I've hair dried it, rather than me constantly going, I've hair dried this, I've hair dried this. So yeah, just slap that paint on. Oh, there you go, hair dried it. And that's after multiple thin layers of Rhinox hide. I think that's about 3 or 4 layers. But yeah, just get a nice smooth base coat. Now the next step is to mix the Rhinox hide and the black. And we're going to be using this to do recess shading. Now on this, there's not that many recesses, so I'm just sort of going under the flaps of the pouch and the holster, in between the two, and then on the underside faces of them. And in that little thing where there should be a hole, but there isn't a hole because it's a tiny plastic model. But yeah, I'm just putting the black in, shading it down a bit. But on a more complex part, this is great, and it's also good for adding in extra detail on the surface, which I'll show you as well, like here. So I'm putting a little bit, I've put too much there, I'm putting a little bit in the middle. It's hard to see, I'm sorry, but I'm putting a little bit in the middle just to make it a little bit darker on the actual panel. Boom, hair dried. Yeah, so there it is dried. So it doesn't look as intense now it's dried. Acrylic paints often look different when they're wet to when they're dry. So yeah, let's get cracking on the next colour. So this is Mournfang brown mixed with the Rhinox hide. And this is quite thin. I'm going to probably do this in 2 layers. But I'm going to start off with the edges. Now I'm using the side of the brush for this. Now I'm just brushing it on, doing edge highlights on all the edges of the holster, but you know what I mean. So I'm just so at this stage I'm just going around all the edges. I'm not really that bothered. I'm not focusing on where the light shines or whatever. I'm just getting all the edges with this colour because all the edges would have wear and tear. Now the way you paint leather is slightly different to an armour panel, for example, as I'm about to show you. So you need to start adding scuffs and texture and bits where the folds are and where it's maybe been flapped open and stuff. Leather starts to break down, and when it breaks down or damaged, it goes lighter. So as you've seen there, I've put it in the middle in some parts. There's like a wide highlight, and as we're going on, we're going to get this smaller. But we're just whacking it on, sort of wide highlights, the bottom of the surface, the top of the surface. And I didn't say, but this is thinned. So the original one I used was slightly thin. This is very thin. That's how it looks after a little blast with the hairdryer. So yeah, let's do another layer of the exact same paint. This is Mournfang and Rhinox. So we're using the properties of acrylic paint, in which that is quite transparent, and we're using it to our advantage. So doing multiple thin layers, and it allows you to blend in between the colours, and it gives it a smoother gradient. So yeah, we're doing the exact same, literally just edge highlighting again, but this time it's a little tiny bit thinner. So it's just along all the edges, and we're just like that. Wash the brush, let's go. Oh, hair dried again. So I'm getting used to positioning and stuff, sorry, but I'm trying to get it in the middle and in focus. But yeah, that's basically in focus, isn't it? You can sort of see what I've done. So we need to move on to the next colour, which is just Mournfang brown. So we're just going to thin it down and get cracking. So, same again, we're going on the edges. This is what I've noticed. I put a little bit too much paint on the brush. I'm just going to crack on with it anyway. If you get that situation, just dab it off on the paper towel, get going again. But I'm just making the best of the situation and pushing it around. So yeah, go around the edges. Try and end your brush stroke in the corners or the edge. So if you're going from the middle, end at the edge. If you're going, so I've put too much there, for example. But yeah, in the edge, because that'll deposit the most paint where the brush stroke ends. And it allows you to form a gradient on the edge highlight itself, which again smooths it out, smooths the blend, smooths just transition. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just slapping it on, putting it on the edges, like that, and like that. So this is a case of getting a good brush and just being careful and patient and gentle. And also you need brush control from practice. So I'm using a size 0 from Artis Opus. And as you can see now, I'm starting to do this sort of cross-hatching. Don't do just cross-hatching, it looks awful. And I'm always fighting with myself to try and not get just cross-hatches going. Try and make it look like it's actual naturally worn, and you're just going to have to get that through practice. Look at reference photos, look at pictures of real leather. But yeah, get the brush and get sort of putting this scratchy damage on. And that effect is what makes leather look like leather. So look, Google patinaed leather, and that'll sort of show you what I'm on about. So yeah, there we go. That's it after it's been dried. Didn't hair dry it, just wait for it. And look at that. So we're starting to get that effect of leather now. And we're going to have to move up the colours. So this is a Ushabti bone mixed with Mournfang brown, 50-50, thin to water. So we're going to do the same as we did before, but smaller. So less all over the edges and in the areas of damage. Paint inside what you've previously just painted. So I'm also taking into the fact that leather's a little bit shiny. So on the top surfaces facing the sun, the zenithal, I'm painting that as an edge highlight. And then on the bottom surfaces, oh there we go, perfect. This is the top, paint on the top. But then on the corners and the bits with damages, I'm also painting it there. Because, as I said, when leather gets damaged, it goes lighter. So yeah, we're just slapping it on. And it's a bit more fine, a little bit more finer brush strokes. Like these edges, we're trying to make them look like they've been worn, flapped open numerous times. So Mr. Marine can get his gun out or whatever he keeps in his pouch. Maybe, I don't know, a Snickers bar? Probably. But yeah, just try and be mindful of where the actual work is getting done on the leather and try and put the highlights in there. So there we go, that's that. After that Ushabti Mournfang mix has dried. And this is when I'm like, I'm not too happy with that blend. I'm not too happy with this. So go back down a step. You can always go up and down these steps. Don't be afraid to do it. It's not set in stone. So I'm getting a bit of the Mournfang brown. And I've thinned it a bit. I'm going to try and blend this little highlight on the edge because it just doesn't look quite right. So I'm putting a bit of Mournfang and I'm pushing it towards the highlight so that the paint pigment forms a gradient from the dark to the light. And again, using the transparency of the paint and making the most of it so that it blends the highlight into the shade. But yeah, I've sort of now gone, oh, well, I'm doing this step, I might as well do it over the whole thing. So I'm just making areas that are dark look a little bit lighter. And remember, this looks quite extreme because of the way acrylics are, but when it dries, it will not be as intense. It'll just form a nice little blend between the layers. And there we go. And that's it dried. So you can see it looks a little bit more intense, but this will all blend together at the end, and I'll show you how. But we're going back in now with the Ushabti Mournfang mix. And we're going on the edges, getting the damage going. And now you can spend ages doing this. Obviously this is just a little tutorial piece. I think total spent 20 minutes painting this. And obviously I know the method, blah blah blah, but it doesn't take too long. And just be loosey-goosey. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. You can always go up and down steps to fix them. But yeah, I'm just getting a little bit more on the top faces. And then we go. Oh, no, put a little bit more. Oh, yes, I've done it. There we go. So yeah, that's how that looks with that step. And then what we need to do is do the final highlight, which is the Ushabti bone. So we're going to put that on the corners, top facing surfaces, as you can see here. That's a great little corner at bottom. Just little tiny little bits of paint like that. And we're going to do it on the top corner, top corner, top corner. Now you need to get used to dragging the paintbrush to draw a line, but also dapping it slightly with the side of the brush. And again, it just takes practice. So yeah, I'm doing it on these little tiny bits where the flaps are sort of lifted up, maybe frayed from too much use. I'm just whacking that on there. And there we go. So that is with the Ushabti done. Now we're moving on to the next step, which is to get Rhinox hide, thin it down and use it as a glaze. Now we're going from the outside into the middle, and this will form a nice gradient and unify all the shades of all the different paints together. So that I've just slapped it on, but we're pushing it into the dark areas. And as I said before, the pigment likes to pool where you end the brushstroke. So in this dark sort of glaze, we want to end the brushstroke in the darkest places. So that's why I'm doing it that way. So that's how it looks wet, and gonna blast it with a hairdryer. Get a cheap one, travel one, not very powerful, so it doesn't melt your mini. And there you go, that's how it looks dried. So that's unified all those colours together and made it look a bit more leathery. So I'm just going to go for one final time with the Ushabti bone and bung on the corners, basically. Paint the final highlight, get it looking just exactly how I want it, and sort of just taking in the model as well. Obviously I've not shown it in the video of me pondering my leather pouch, but just look at it, see how it looks, see if there's any bits that you think needs more damage. And like this, like normally I'd probably paint these metal, but for this example I've just painted them with a little dab of Ushabti, so they look like shiny little dots, clasps, whatever. And yeah, that's literally it. That's how you paint it. So you could leave it at this point, that'd be done. Now this next step is how I like to do my models, and I would usually do it at the very end of the painting, but obviously for this tutorial I'm showing you now. So literally just a little bit of matte varnish, I'm slapping it all over, making sure it doesn't pool in the recesses, because if you just left it like that it would get like a little white powdery effect. So make sure it's just a thin uniform coat all over. Now usually I use an airbrush for this, but it's really not worth it for this little tiny thing. So I've just hair dried it, and this is the finished result. So I really hope you enjoyed that tutorial. It's quick and easy and simple. And yeah, you can use any browns you want. You can use black for this, and it will make leather. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.